This is the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, and there has been a lot of videos on this camera. Most of the videos on this particular action camera are sponsored. This is an unsponsored video. I bought this camera myself, and I'm going to tell you some things about this camera that they didn't tell you. So if that's got your curiosity piqued, keep watching, because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So what am I going to tell you that they didn't tell you? Well, their videos are scripted, okay? So when a sponsored video happens, the manufacturer is paying for the production of the video. A script is usually agreed upon or sent, or, you know, it's kind of like an infomercial, okay? I'm not going to get into the details of it, but that's more or less what it is. When you don't have a sponsored video, you can talk about whatever the heck you want to talk about. So let's go to the downward shot and get into this, shall we? So this is the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, and this is the 4, and this is the 3. And I'm not going to waste any time by going into a lot of, you know, this, that, or the other thing about it. I'm just going to tell you that this camera has an OLED screen, this camera has an LCD screen, this camera has an LCD screen as well. The Action 3 breaks things up into chapters. When you hit record, like GoPro, it breaks things up into 5-minute, 10-minute chapters. You cannot connect the DJI Mic 2 to this camera. So you can't do it. No, no, no. This one, you can connect one microphone to it. And you can use this microphone as your input microphone. The action camera will stay waterproof because this door can remain closed, and that's all wonderful. This camera can have 2 DJI microphones attached to it, and that's the difference between that. Now, a lot of videos have talked about, you know, all of these different features, and you're like, okay, so what are you going to get at? Okay, so here is my Telesin ND filters. It fits onto the Action 3. It fits onto the Action 4, and it fits onto the Action 5 Pro. That is something that they didn't discuss. This particular brand is made by Telesin. I bought this with my own money. They work pretty good. I like the way they just kind of go over top. Now there is this little elastic sock that kind of goes around the cameras, but you don't need to have this. Okay, so this is an action camera cage, and if you want to know if it fits all these cameras, here's the Action 3. Gets in there, and you just click that in place, and away you go. That's a little bit snug, but it works. It's got a nice microphone input. It's got a cold shoe mount here, one that slides all the way through, and it's got one here too. So if you want a microphone and a light, you can have one. It's even got 1/4-20 on this side, and if you look, it is geared specifically for vlogging, TikTok videos. I did a video on it. You should check it out. So now I'm going to take it out of here and put in the 4. I'll put in the 4. And you're going to slide the 4 in. Click it in. It fits. Everything works. Everything's compatible. Everything's good. Take it out. Now we're going to wonder, does the 5 also fit? It should, but let's find out. It is a bit on the snug side. So it will go in, but it's snug. It still locks. Everything's good. Can you use the ND filters while the cage is on? Yes, you can. This cage is designed for these filters. Keep that in mind when you're buying ND filters and you're buying cages for your camera. You get one model of cage, you get a different filter, you could run into some issues. So if you want to keep them compatible, keep that in mind. Also, does this light work with this? Well, there you go. It clicks on, it works, we're good, and it also clicks on the side. You can have it like that. There's your 5 Pro. Can you take this out and use any of the other cages, and it's stiff going in and out? Can you use any of the other cages from any of the other cameras? Will it fit into those? And the answer is, well, it should. Here's the one from the 3. There you go. Fits. Okay, moving right along. As we're going to keep this video, we're going to keep it just moving right along because we're just answering questions. We're answering all the major questions that a lot of people just want to know. And so far, we're liking the answers. Backwards compatibility. Does the battery in this camera work in this camera? The answer is yes, 100%. Does the battery in this camera work in this camera? Yes. Will it work in from this camera to this camera? Yes. If I hit record button on this camera, how fast does it take to boot up? There you go. And it should be recording. There we go. And I'm going to shut that one off. Okay. And this is the procedure for the Action 3. And again, this one breaks things up into chapters like a lot of the GoPro. I wish that DJI would do a firmware update, and because when I record on my camera, I want it to be the chapter that I pick. On this one, you don't have that problem. Okay, you turn it on, it boots up, the screen is locked, but it's recording. Okay, shut it off. And this one here does this little countdown timer, and it powers off. Now let's check out the Action 5 Pro. Hit the button, and notice that the screen isn't locked. You can see the screen and see how fast that recorded. Also notice the screen on this side is also lit. On these ones, you have to choose which screen that you're going to be using. So if I turn on this camera on the Action 4, this screen is going, this screen is not. I have to pick one or the other. This one here, they're both running at the same time. Okay, this one here, I turn it on, the screen is on, the screen is on this. This is the Action 3. You see that? The Action 3. This one here doesn't do that. This one here, both screens are on. Now you might be able to change that in the settings, I don't know, but you have to swipe it. This one makes you choose, this one doesn't. I don't know if that's an option you can change, but that's what I noticed with these cameras. Now, I'm going to shut them all off. And that's what they do, a 3-second countdown. This one says the DJI when you shut it off. Now, I'm going to go to this. This is a remote control for the DJI Action 2. Now, I've paired it with all of these cameras, and it's very easy to pair. As soon as you turn it on, a little number pops up, just says confirm, and you're done. It's very, very simple. So I'm going to turn on the camera. I'm going to turn the camera on from the side. Let me see, where's that button? Okay, so the button on this one is a little stiffer. Button on this one is not as bad. And I'm going to turn this one on. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the remote. Okay, and the remote is going to look for cameras. It says it found 1 camera, found 3 cameras. So it's found all 3. So you can pair the DJI Osmo Action 5 to this remote. What's so good about that? Well, watch this. If I hit this, I'm just going to swipe up. Hang on. I'm going to go like this, swipe up. Okay. So I hit record, and it should record on all of them. There we go. They're all recording at the same time. That's why. If I want to stop the recording, I have to click it twice. If I want to change the function of them, I can click on this, go into photo mode, hit the button. They all took a picture at the same exact time. If I want to go into, let me see, time lapse, hyper lapse, slow-mo mode, I go here. They're all in slow-mo mode. Okay. I have to click it twice. There you go. So if you only have one camera connected, you only click it once. If you have more than one, you click it twice. So now if I'm going to go back into, let me just see. So you can change the function of the quick clip video mode. Okay, so now we're back to video mode. Okay, all the screens change. You seen that? Click on that. Okay. Now they're not all exactly the same, but that's the way they are. Click on it twice. Okay, so they're all compatible. I'm going to power this off, disconnect it. Okay, so we know that it works with that. Now we're going to use some gimbals. Well, first of all, before we get to that, let's see if aftermarket quick releases work. This one is made by Telesin. I paid for this one myself. I think it was 20 bucks. That one works. That one works. I noticed that on some of these you have to click, you have to push it down really hard. This one here, not too bad. Okay. And we're going to go to the gimbal setup. Will these cameras work on the Hohem iSteady Pro 4 gimbal? And the answer is yes. They all will work on the host. And you can even put them in the plastic case when you're using it. It actually fits a little bit better. It's a snug fit, but it fits good. So they will work with this, but you cannot control the functions of the camera itself. It's designed mainly for GoPro. However, this particular gimbal is water resistant, and that's why I got it. So if you're going to vlog in the rain or anything like that, this is your guy. So if you're not going to vlog in the rain, then I have the Inky Falcon, and this one has like a selfie mode. So if you click this 3 times, it'll flip the camera around, but the Hohem can't do that. This one also has Inception mode, and as you can see, I've got the DJI mount on here. So if I want to put this on there, I can put that on there, and I can swap each camera out rather quickly if I want. I can just power this on, and it will balance no problem. So, and I'm just going to go to this screen here and show you that yes, it'll balance no problem at all. We're all good on that. And if I can even hit the lock, I can hit this and it will flip around and do selfie mode. The Hohem iSteady Pro 4 doesn't have that. You have to actually physically turn it around, but it is water resistant. This one is more compact, and I find that it is just feels a little bit more, a little more premium on this one. So if I go like this, it goes all the way around, and I do like the form factor of this one better. A lot of these gimbals will have the record buttons and everything on them. That's just for GoPro. Does not work on these, so forget about that. That's why you get that other remote handle, and then you can control that. Makes it a little bit longer, but it has a built-in tripod. So I'm going to shut this gimbal off, and let me just, there we go. So the gimbal is powered off now, at least I think it is. Yeah, it's off. It was just balanced really well. So If you want to know the difference between the gimbals, I made a video on that, and you know the reason why I have 3 different gimbals. I also have the Feiyutech Vimbal 2A, and I got that one because it has an extendable neck, so you can actually pull the neck out, and I even modified it so that you can just slide the camera in and out, kind of like the Hohem iSteady Pro 4. But I like the quality of the Inky Falcon gimbal, and as far as the waterproofness and versatility and the fact that you don't have to balance it, I like the Hohem for that. And a lot of people have chosen the Hohem because of that reason. So, what do these cameras weigh? Do they all weigh the same? This is another question that nobody else asked, and we will have to address. So let's go back to the downward shot and check it out. So this one here with the battery weighs 337 grams. Now keep in mind that battery is the larger capacity battery. This one here, 341 grams, 343 grams. Just make sure we're getting everything right. 342, 343, 341. So they're all more or less the same. I bet you if I moved it over there, yeah. If anything, it's the Action 5 could be lighter. Okay, so moving right along, because I wanted to make sure that we covered as much stuff as possible. And here's the lens cap covers, and there's that one, and it fits on this one here too, and this one here too. You can pick these up for roughly $6, I think it is. And this one here is now shutting down. I wonder if this one will shut down. They should power off if they haven't been in record mode for 5 minutes. And let me see. There's also a case. Here's the case. Will this case work? It works on the Action 4. You can zip this up, and it even works if you have this on too. Okay. And will it work on the 5? Should. You can pick these cases up with these, I think, for about $16. It's a good value. Can you put this guy in here and then put that in the case? Yep, you can do that. And you can even put the lens cap on top of that if you want. And that fits there like so. Can you put one of these on? Okay, and then put this over top? No, you cannot. So just so you know. I don't even know if I like these little ring things. I find them to be kind of useless myself. Now in the box it came with this mount here, came with one thumb screw, and it came with one DJI mount. So I had done another video with me actually taking it out of the box. The only problem is the audio turned out to be no good. So I learned my lesson. I forgot to hit record on the internal recording on the DJI Mic 2. Lesson learned. So even if you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of mistakes. So it happens. It's all part of TV, you know, YouTube and all that stuff. Is you live and you learn. Let's go back down to the downward shot and explore this camera a little bit more. So this camera has internal storage. So when I was recording, believe it or not, it has internal storage. You can even set little points of interest, and you can do it, and you can put them in vertical video as well if you want. You can set like little hearts, and it pretty much functions like the Action 4. You can delete videos as well. Okay, no files on internal storage. That's what I wanted to show you. Okay, confirm. Okay, and again, I like the fact that both screens are lit up for selfies and things like that. If you rotate it like this, it rotates very, very smoothly. Look how quick that is. It just goes back and forth. If I go like this, upside down even, we're good. So it'll orientate no matter which direction you put it in. That is another thing that a lot of other guys didn't cover. So if you wanted to know that, and some of these other ones do that too. I think the Action 4 kind of does that, but probably not as effective. Here, let me just switch. That's
screen switch, photo, video.
There we go. There's video. So it changes orientation too. Okay, no matter which direction. Again, this one breaks things up into chapters and it doesn't connect to the DJI mic too. So this one here, same thing. Rotates no matter what the orientation. So, but if you look at the icons, they rotate too. And yeah, they rotate too. This one here is like hyperlapse in that one. Yeah, doesn't give you the voice prompt. Okay. All right, so we covered that. We covered how fast they boot up and record. They're all very, very quick. They're all very decent cameras. Okay. Now we're going to put them. So I've got the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 hooked up to my video switcher. I'm going to show you the video switcher right now. And I just go right to there. This is the video switcher. There's the cameras. Okay. This is a lot of electronic gear. There's my Sony ZV-E10. Okay, and now we're back to me. Now I'm going to hook up the DJI Action 5 Pro as a webcam. Nobody else has done that. So I'm going to hook the Action 5 Pro and the Action 4 and the Action 3. I did this earlier as a test. I noticed that the Action 4 actually looked a little better than the Action 5. And I don't know why. It almost looked like it was kind of over sharpened. So now to do that, before we do that, I'm going to grab my, I have a different mount that I was using for that. I believe it was this one. So I have these little quick release mounts. If you're interested in quick release mounts that make the Pocket 3 and DJI Action cameras compatible by just swapping everything in and out. So as you can see, I've got this on the Ulanzi mount and I've got the quick release little fingers on this one, but on the Pocket I just got it screwed right into the face, so then you can just swap everything in and out. Everything's interchangeable really fast. If you're on your bicycle, if you're doing anything like that, you can just swap all this stuff in and out and it works really quick, really good. So I'm going to switch over to the Sony ZV-E10 and then I'm going to swap out cameras. I'm going to show you how quick that is, and I'm doing this all as I'm on the fly. So we're going to switch over to that, and I think, yeah, we're on the, this is the Sony ZV-E10 right now. Yeah, I'm looking at the Sony ZV-E10. Take me out of the corner. Okay, so now I have to power off my Pocket 3 camera, and we're going to power that off. Okay, and as you can see, I'm going to unplug the, this is the OBSBot UVC converter, which is like a little computer. We're going to pull that out. We're going to put in the Action, I'm going to put in the Action 5. Okay, And you got to make sure, yeah, when you click that in there, when you click these little clips in the Action 5 Pro, make sure that they're clipped in good. So a little point of advice, I noticed that mine, the Action 4 and the 3 on some of these aftermarket releases, they click a little easier than the 5. So keep that in mind. Just make sure you got a good push in there and that it clicks. And I usually give it a little tug to make sure that it's in. So to hook this up, you lift up this little door, and then you have to hook in the UVC cable, and then it should go right into webcam mode. When you do that, I might have to power it off and power it back up again. Let me just see that. Okay, so I'm powering it off, and I'm going to power it back on. Okay, and it should display some kind of webcam screen, and we will go from there. Let me see. Let me see. No, it didn't do it. Let me try it again. Maybe I didn't plug it in right. There we go. Okay, so now I'm in webcam mode. It says preparing it, and we're going to switch over to it. So this is what the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro looks like in webcam mode and like a live stream type of setup. Some people will be buying this camera and they're going to be using it for live stream. I'm finding that the picture is a little bit over sharpened. They could correct that in a firmware update. There are manual adjustments that you can make to your, your exposure and things like that. So I would maybe just tone that down a little bit and go from there. But this is what it looks like straight out of camera. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Sony ZV-E10, and then we're going to go put on the DJI Osmo Action 4, and we're going to see what that looks like. So I got to power this off. We're going to go back to the, I'm looking into the Sony ZV-E10 now. I have to power this camera off. So I'm trying to go as quick as I can because I don't want to make this a huge long video, but there's a lot of information to share with you. And I know that my subscribers like the facts. They want the facts on everything, and that's what we're getting at. So I'm taking this camera off and put on the Action 4. And it clicks on very easily, by the way. And we're going to power it on. And we should... Now it's saying, okay, so there we go. So I'm going to have to plug it in again, and there we go, webcam mode. Okay, so we're using the UVC to do webcam. It's like a little box that you get from OBSBot. I talk about it in one of my other videos when I'm talking about if you buy the OC GoStream Pro, like the video switcher that I have, it has one built in. But I got another one because I have two technically I have two kind of webcams, so I needed an extra box, and they're kind of expensive. They're about $200. So I'm going to switch over to the DJI Action 4 now, and this is the DJI Action 4. And as you can see, the picture quality looks a little softer, and I actually think it looks a little more pleasant to the eye than the Action 5 Pro. So the Action 5 Pro is a webcam. It'll work, but I think that DJI needs to do a firmware update on that. And there is one difference though, is I don't know, yeah, you can record on the DJI Action 4 as a backup if you're doing a webcam video. You can also do that on the 5 Pro as well, because I know that for a fact. So let me shut this off, and then we're going to put on the 3. Now, once again, we got to go to Sony ZV-E10, and I got to shut this off. Okay, and unplug this, and take this off, and get my Action 3. It's a good thing they didn't make 16 of these things, right? And I'm going to click that on there. I turn on the Action 3, and I've also noticed that as I'm doing this, the screens, the selfie screens are different on each camera. They get better as you go up. Let's get on the, I'm going to hook up this now. Okay. And it is going webcam mode. Okay, hang on. Webcam. There we go. Webcam has been initiated. Now we're on the DJI Osmo Action 3. So what do you look at this picture? What do you think of this one? It's pretty amazing that, you know, the Action 3 is not bad as a webcam, and it might be its strongest point because, like I said, I don't like the way it breaks things up into chapters. I do think DJI should fix that in the firmware update. When I push record and I push stop, I want that to be my chapter. I don't want the camera to start busting stuff up into different chapters. And the other thing that I noticed with these cameras is that on the Osmo Pocket 3, if you don't like your recording, you can hold down the record button and you can erase the recording. Now, some people don't like that feature, but I like to use that feature. But you can't do that on any of these action cameras. It doesn't have that feature. DJI could add that as a feature on these cameras as well. Now, I do want to let them know that it needs to be, you should be able to toggle it on or off, because some people tend to hold down the record button too long and they think they recorded something and they didn't. I got a comment from one of my subscribers, and he said that he hated that feature because of that reason. He kept erasing stuff that he was trying to record. He didn't realize that holding down the button, so he was just a person that holds down the record button too long, and he kept erasing his recordings by accident. So it needs to be able to be toggled on and off as well to meet the people's, you know, just so that if you want to shut it off, you don't have to have it. But I do think they should have that feature in, toggle it on and off, not only in the Pocket 3, but have it as a feature in all their action cameras as well. So yeah, I think that would be good. And so the video in this is pretty good. A lot of people think, well, this particular action camera had issues with focusing and things like that. It's got a smaller sensor, so it needs more light. So if you notice, it's a little darker than the Action 4. The Action 4, and I did a low light comparison video between the Action 3 and the 4, and you can check that out in my videos as well, where I went on a bicycle ride, and you could distinctly tell that the Action 4 was better in low light. Now the Action 5 is even better in low light than the Action 4. However, there appears to be a little bit of too much over sharpness. You know, it's a little too sharp. And again, these things can be fixed in a firmware update. Oh, and the other thing I want to bring up, so there is one other issue I would also like to talk about, is that on the Action 5 Pro, it has internal storage, and everyone thinks, oh, this is great, this is a game changer, wonderful, you know. They didn't do that for us, okay? Like, everyone thinks, oh, they did it for us. They put 47 gigabytes of storage on there. They did that so that they wouldn't get as many returns on their cameras. So on this particular camera, I put a cheap SD card on there, and you can see an orange. It'll come up orange. It'll say it is a SD card is too slow. So whenever you put a counterfeit SD card or a cheap SD card, it comes up too slow, and that's not good. And you'll see that as it'll be a bar across there, and it'll say that. Now, what happens is a lot of people think it's the camera's fault. They don't think it's the SD card's fault. They think their camera's defective. So if you bought this on Amazon, you have 30 days. You can return it, no problems, no questions asked. They give you your money back. DJI doesn't want their cameras to come back. So by putting internal storage is actually kind of a genius move, because this way, guaranteed, you're going to, you know, you're not going to say that that is going to be an issue. And if you happen to put an SD card in there that's not that great, then the internal storage, it'll say, hey, switch to internal storage, and we'll put it on there instead. So that was actually pretty clever. And that is something that other action camera companies should probably be doing, because those cheap counterfeit SD cards have caused nothing but problems in the action camera market. I happen to belong to a lot of Facebook groups where we talk about DJI action cameras, and it is one of the most brought up questions is how come this SD card isn't working, and they think it's the camera's fault and not the fact that it's the SD card. And I've had to help people recommend certain SD cards to avoid that problem. If you buy the Action 5 Pro, you don't have to worry about it. It has internal storage, and it also will be functioning at the proper bit rate. So when you look at SD cards, they're not all created equal. They have to have the right bit rate or the right data transfer rate so that they can write at a certain speed and they can read at a certain speed. That is kind of too technical for a lot of people. They just want to pick up their camera, they want to hit the record button, and they want it to work. And that's why a lot of people use these cameras in normal settings. They don't go to D-Log-M and they don't do color profiles and things like that. I myself just like things to work. And a lot of people in my audience like things to work too. So this is where we're doing these videos, is for those people that just when they spend a lot of money on something, they want it to work. They don't want to be frustrated. Now, I'm going to go and switch this back to the Osmo Pocket 3 because I like the look of that better. And I'm going to switch back to the Sony ZV-E10. This is the first generation, not the Mark II. Sorry. So I'm going to power this off. And if you want to get a good, decent studio camera, the Osmo Pocket 3 is an excellent studio camera, because instead of training yourself to stare into the lens, you can look at the screen and you're still hitting the lens with your eyes. It's a very good system. It's excellent that way, you know, and you can frame your shot very easily. And I think that it is one of the, you know, it competes with full frame cameras. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people have said that. Okay, so now we are back on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And I took face tracking off because I did get a comment saying that, hey, you know, face tracking is kind of driving me crazy because every time you move your head, the whole camera is moving. I listen to my audience. When my audience says something, I try to accommodate, because the last thing I want is to annoy someone where they say, you know what, I can't subscribe to this guy. He's driving me crazy. And I just want to get them, you know, good information. I want to make good quality videos, and I want for people to say, wow, I really got something out of that. Because that's why I signed up for YouTube. I'm not a know-it-all, okay? I don't know everything about everything. YouTube isn't supposed to be about that. It's supposed to be about us learning from each other. So when you leave comments, I can learn from you. I want that information. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I know more than you, or I'm better than you, or anything like that. Leave that to the other guys to deal with. With us, we're trying to get through this big blue marble together and try to, you know, have fun with stuff like this. So the whole point is just learning is what I'm getting at. And anybody can learn regardless of your age and regardless of your skill set. So what are my conclusions on this camera? Because I did buy it myself and I can give my opinion on it. Well, I think that for $489 is what I paid for it Canadian, and I got the standard combo, not the creator combo or anything like that. It came with the better battery. It has longer record time, which is good. It has really nice OLED screens, which are good. I wish the touch capacity, which was better. Now, I did have to do a firmware update, and that's the other reason why I had to redo this video, because the firmware update was just taking too long and it was driving me nuts. And that's one thing that, you know, it kind of kills the video on that. But I will give DJI credit. when they give firmware updates, they're saying that, hey, you know, we support our product. And some companies, and Sony's one of them, you don't get a lot of firmware updates. And sometimes they take months, if not like a year, to get it. The FX30, which has been out for a while, just got a firmware update to get shutter angle. Yeah, they could have done that a long time ago. They know what shutter angle is. They could have done that a long time ago. DJI is very prompt in their firmware updates. Even on the microphones, they gave firmware update. The quality of the audio is vastly improved because they listen to people and they want people to keep buying their products. That is good marketing and it is good customer relations, in my opinion. Is there anything that they could do better? When I opened the little door and I seen the one USB-C port, there was plenty of room where they could have put a micro HDMI port next to it. And I don't see why they couldn't have done that. And then you don't have to buy a $200 OBS to convert it so that you can run it through a video switcher. And if I wanted to do multi-camera live stream shots on, let's say, a bicycle or something like that, and I had a portable video switcher, and they do make these kind of things, like YOLO Box, I think it's YOLO Box has all this. Yeah, you can now, instead of having to get extra hardware, we could have just wired it in through the HDMI. And I know that micro HDMI kind of suck, but it's better than nothing. I have it on my Sony ZV-10. It's been working, and as long as you're not rough with them, they're okay. You know, you just got to be careful with them. What else could they have done? Well, I think the other thing that they need to do in a firmware update is, so GoPro on their lenses, if you put a different lens on there, the camera recognizes what lens or what ND filter you put on there and changes all its settings to optimize whatever you put on the front of it. So if you put on an anamorphic lens, which is supposed to come out later, it will automatically change all your settings and optimize the camera for the anamorphic lens, so you don't have to like de-squeeze it and all that other good stuff. Now with DJI, how they could do that is, if I put an ND filter, and all ND filters are labeled, so this is a Telesin ND filter that I bought, and this is an ND number 8. So I put on an ND number 8, just fits over top. I should be able to go into my camera settings under ND filters and say, hey, I put on an ND number 8. And then it will automatically change your shutter speed and all that for your motion blur. And they can do that with a firmware update. You don't have to have a fancy connection. That's one thing that I didn't like that GoPro did, because they're basically saying, now you got to buy our proprietary lenses at our prices because we're not allowing third party to make those things. And if they do let them make them, it's not going to happen right away. It'll happen down the road. So if you do put on third party ones, which are cheaper, well, you got to go into the manual settings and change everything yourself anyway. If DJI really wanted to smoke GoPro on that, they just have to put in their settings for filters and things like that and say, hey, I'm putting on a CPL filter, I'm putting on an ND8, a 64, whatever, and then the camera will optimize the settings for that. This can be done in a firmware update where they can add stuff like that. Now they've added 2 DJI Mic 2s, and that's great. Where you're probably going to see this is when people are doing interviews, and they have a mic in one hand and they have one on themselves, and they're just going back and forth. And I do have a microphone. I don't know exactly where I put it, but it is it looks like a Bob Barker microphone. So I did a video on DJI mic accessories, and you put this on there, and it's a little microphone about that, and you can go back and forth kind of like this without having to like hold this right up to your mouth, sort of thing. And it's kind of cool. And you can even use it under helmet mount because it sort of bends. And I think that that was a good move, because now you've got two microphones, and even in bad weather, so let's say you were reporting on a hurricane or a rainstorm, thunderstorm, earthquake, whatever, you know, pick your natural disaster, right? Tornado, and you wanted to interview, or you wanted to get the sound of the wind, but you don't want it to destroy the sound of your voice. So now you've got sound coming in from two things, and you can modulate that in post to bring up those levels or shrink them. So if I'm on a motorcycle, for instance, and I want to have the exhaust noise in there, but I don't want it to overpower my voice, I can have my voice and put the second microphone over by the exhaust, maybe under the seat or something, and then I can balance that out in post, and then that would be kind of cool. So you're kind of doing your own audio for video post-production sort of on the fly. And that's kind of a nice feature too. I'm glad they didn't go with the whole AI warp thing like Insta360. And if you've noticed, that didn't last that long. It was kind of like it came in, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is great, it's kind of cool. It was nothing but a toy. People played with it for a bit. They said, yeah, it's kind of weird, it's kind of strange, it's kind of funny. And then they just stopped using it. There might be the odd guy out there doing it still, but for the most part, people aren't even using it. I haven't seen a lot of it on YouTube at all. The Insta360 Ace Pro 2 will be coming out. It's supposed to be the competition for this guy. I don't think it's going to be able to compete with it. I think that the DJI Action 4 beat out the Ace Pro as far as quality goes. And I think the 5 Pro will beat out that one as well. Here's a funny thing is, all the Insta360 cameras hook up to the DJI mic, so why not just get the DJI camera to go with your DJI mic? It'll pair better, and you can also hit the backup recording and get your 32-bit float. And when you pair it with some of their cameras, you can't hit the backup recording. It won't work. At least that's what some of the reports. I don't have one of those cameras to show you that, but I'm not into Insta360 at all. I'm not going to get into their products. I've looked at them, and it's just not for me. I'm going to stick with DJI, and you know, I have a GoPro Max. Just to be clear, I'm not anti-GoPro. I'm not anti-Insta360. I'm just showing you kind of what works for me. And if you really like those cameras, don't think I'm hating on you. If you like them, fine, you know, but a lot of people are saying, well, this one's way better and this one, you know. I think that this is a very competent camera, and that's what I want to present to you. I want to just say, hey, you want one of these, it works. Do I think there's anything wrong with the Action 4? No, I think the Action 4 is plenty good for most people right now. If you're just vlogging by yourself, you want to mic yourself, you want to do that, excellent camera. I got the 5 Pro because I was curious to see if how much, like in what way is it going to be backwards compatible. And I like the fact that you can hook up the 2 microphones, and I like the fact that it boots up and records really quickly. And I was curious if all the ND filters and that stuff would fit, and they do. And I wanted to know if it would fit in this case too. I was curious about that. It was kind of expensive to find out some of these things, but I also like the battery life. That was the other thing too, is the battery life on this is a lot better than the DJI Action 4. Don't know how the new sensor is going to pan out though. A lot of people were saying, why didn't DJI put the 1-inch sensor in this camera? They couldn't. There was not enough room in this camera for a 1-inch sensor. That's why they designed this sensor and improved upon its abilities. So if they had to put a 1-inch sensor in here, they would have had to change the dimensions of the camera, which means that a lot of the backwards compatibility isn't going to be there. If you want to put it in this case, for instance, it's not going to fit. It's also going to change the weight of the camera. Your lens filters and all that other stuff aren't going to fit as well. So a lot of people aren't going to like that. And I would have been one of them. I think that the move that they made was very logical. And I think that if they ever can get a 1-inch sensor crammed into one of these, maybe. But if you look at the Pocket 3 and you see the head on that camera and you think that you'd have to fit all of that into here without changing the size, you can't do it. It's not going to fit. And there's also electronics to go with that. So if you wanted to know why they didn't do that from an engineering standpoint, and someone that has a little bit of background in that, I think that there just isn't enough room in there, and I'm sure that they would even agree. They're not going to argue with me on that. They're just, if there's not enough room, they can't do it. So what they had to do was redesign the sensor. It would have been a lot easier for them to put a 1-inch sensor in that, don't you think? Because they already had one. Now, I do want to touch base on some things that DJI has been doing that I'm not a fan of. Okay, so DJI made a drone, and I love drones. I think they're great little things. They get excellent camera footage, and just to be clear, DJI makes some of the best drones, if not the best drones, on the market today. They're excellent quality. Everybody seems to love them. They work really well. They're good in high wind. All that great stuff. What I have an issue with is the DJI Neo drone. So the Neo drone, you hold it in your hand. It's supposed to follow you around. It's a little selfie drone. And this is great. What I don't like is the fact that they're leaving out some key information. Okay, so this is what kind of makes me a little angry, is that you can't use that drone, that selfie drone, which is meant to be a vlogging drone, I might add, in the city. Look at the footage from everybody that has talked about that little drone. They're out in the woods someplace hiking where there's no people around, and that little drone's following them around. Okay? Try doing that downtown New York. Try doing that downtown Toronto. Try doing that downtown Calgary, or any place where there's a lot of people around. The drone doesn't have obstacle avoidance. If the drone hits anybody, or if it annoys people, in Canada there is a drone law that applies to all drones, not just the big ones, that says you can't fly like an idiot, or you have to have control over your drone, and you can't bother people or hurt people or chase wildlife or anything like that, because Fish and Game will get involved if your drone is bothering geese or anything like that. So, you know, I don't think that a selfie drone is really a selfie drone unless you can use it in the city where most of the people do their vlogging. And it's also very noisy, and you know, it's, even though they can cancel it out with the phone, and you know, I seen one video with a lady, I think she was in England, and she did it on the DJI Neo. I'm not going to mention her name, but you could tell by the look on her face that she was as paranoid could be. And she was kind of looking around while she was using this thing, because when this thing's up and flying, it's screaming away. And so, you know I'm digressing and I'm talking about drones, but I think that and, you know, to compete with the Hover Air X1, I don't even like that thing, because you can't use that in the city either. And then they made another one with 8K. They said, oh, look at this one's got 8K, and it's got obstacle avoidance. You can't use that one in the city either. There's people around. There's dogs around. You could, if you ran into a situation where you had a bird of prey, it's going to attack your drone. You know, these things really happen. People have had their drones attacked by birds before because they think they can eat them. So I think they should get away from stuff like that. To me, that's kind of gimmicky stuff. and it's got a very small audience. If you live on a farm where there's no one around, yeah, that little drone's perfect. You know, no one can tell you what to do on your own farm. But most of us live in a city, and let's face it, find me some footage of someone using that drone in a major metropolitan city and send me the link to that. I'd love to see it, you know. And ask DJI, just say, how come that isn't being disclosed in some of those videos, you know? Because a lot of people would go out and they'd buy a $250 drone only to find out they're too scared to use it. And that's why I didn't buy one. I think it's cool, and I think that if you get the remote and you want to go someplace remote and fly it around, that's fine. But for me, it's a no-go. So that's why I waited for this. So take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video.